What's going on, everyone? So, a common theme that we're seeing many of the actors and actresses in this upcoming Scream 7 relay are a couple things. One, Ghostface is going to be darker, scarier, more brutal, right? Like, this is the scariest version of Ghostface yet, right? You've heard a lot about Ghostface in particular in this, and they're really trying to hit home that, like, hey, this is going to be a different Ghostface, right? Which I'm all for, right? One of the things, I've been very critical of Scream 5 and 6. Scream 6 in particular, the more that I watch it, the more that I'm but talk about that another day. Point is that, one of the things that I really liked about Scream 5 and 6 that I thought that they got right was Ghostface, right? I thought Ghostface was a lot more, less scary movie, right? Like, we were stumbling, falling all over himself, but more brutal, more dark, right? Ghostface, you saw get in and get out, right? Boom, take people out, surprise kills. Scream 6, I thought, the tactical kind of militant Ghostface, I thought was really, clever. If you could kind of marry the two, I think you have the perfect Ghostface at that point. So maybe you could get something like that. I'm all for that. But another big thing that we keep hearing, Anna Camp was the most recent that said it, and others have related that there's going to be a lot of twists and turns, right? That this film, she says, her jaw dropped, to the millionth time, right? Like, she was just like absolutely stunned when she got the script, read the script, and found out how this story was going to play out. And I am all for it, right? Like, with these Scream movies, especially as you start getting into the later films, 7, and there's supposed to be an 8, and, keep doing Screams. I've talked about it. Like, the beauty of Scream is you can do them forever, right? As long as they're good storytelling, good writing, good execution, good acting, right? As long as you're actually, putting forth the effort, then fine, do it forever. It's not a Jason, it's not a Michael, it's not a Freddy, where once you get rid of them, that's it, right? Now you got to reboot the franchise, or you got to do a different timeline or whatever, or these movies don't tie into these movies. Like, the beauty of Scream is you can just keep the continuity, and I want them to keep that. But as we progress, you need to start changing the formula, a very simple formula. Got to start changing that a little bit, right? I don't want to ever lose what inherently makes Scream. Like, I don't want to lose the foundation, but you can build different types of houses on it and be a little creative, but keep the thing that makes Scream. And you got this whodunit mystery, and you got, a large cast, right? There's a lot of people in this Scream movie, but it gives all kinds of possibilities and potential. I do worry about the character development and, storytelling of particular characters. You're always going to get a couple characters that are just kind of in the movie for 5 minutes and then die, right? It's just how it goes, whether it's the opening scene or, it's at the midway, Vince, where it's just 5 minutes after the opening scene, he's dead, right? Like, there's a lot of different potentials in that regard, but I do want character development, at least for the core characters, whichever characters you're trying to flesh out and really, relate to an audience, need to be built and developed properly. But, right, you have so many possibilities, you have so many potentials, and like you saw with Scream 6, the different kind of just twists and turns, right? From the opening jump, right, with Samara Weaving's character, and then, you had Greg, boom, pull off the mask, and he's the killer. It's oh, you got this big killer reveal, and then he goes home, and you're like, wow, okay, and he thinks he's talking to Jason, and then boom, he gets taken out, right? Like, it's just you're going down this path, and it's sharp left, and then it's oh, sharp right, and then it's it's just kept you on your toes, and you're just kind of okay, and okay, and oh, no, here we go here, right? So, I'm all for them doing that, right? Hey, we're going over here a little bit. Okay, now we're going over here. Okay, now we're back over here. Okay, now we're here, right? Obviously you want to keep the flow. That's very important, because you don't want to run the risk of things being kind of too convoluted. You don't want to run the risk of things kind of being a little all over the place, and you're okay, and it's hard to keep up, right? You want to let things settle, right? You want to, if there is a kill, if there is something, you want to let things settle, right? Like Dewey's death. If they went and killed Dewey and then immediately jumped into, whatever, Sam and Tara at the park, right? You're dude, I didn't even have a second to process that. I didn't even have a second to do that, right? But you have Dewey's death, and then you have Gail's reaction, and kind of this build up, right? I do wish we would have gotten a Sydney reaction. I know the phone call, but I would have liked to really kind of get into that. But nonetheless, the point is like you need to let things marinate, right? Like you don't want to you don't want to have too many twists and turns to where it's a bumpy ride, right? And you're just like, once you get off of it, you're just like, ooh, okay, like, or midway through the film, everyone's like, all right, time out. I need to get off of this ride, right? Because it just becomes too, chaotic. Hopefully they're able to, with a bunch of twists and turns, are able to really flush it out properly, keep the continuity of the story, kind of let things sit and marinate, right? You want to be able to take things in. You want to be able to take key deaths or, key moments, or, be able to absorb it, especially if at the end you're going to have some big twist and reveal or whatever, right? Like, for example, like Scream 3, I know people love that movie or hate that movie. I know that's kind of like usually the one that's at the big debates, right? Like, no, this movie's terrible, this one's bad. But one of the things about Scream 3, again, however you feel about the movie, that it didn't execute properly was telling the overarching story about Roman, so that way at the end, the audience already kind of has that understanding, right? Or at least the basis of the understanding, right? Like Scream 3, by the time you got to Roman had to spend 10 minutes of dialogue explaining, like, I'm your brother and I'm this, where if they would have established early on, Sydney, you have a brother, right? Like, and whatnot, right? So then, boom, now you don't have to have 10 minutes of dialogue of Roman. Like, he can just kind of fill in the blanks, right? That's the idea. You want to get to the end, and you have these pieces that now you can put to the puzzle, but obviously the puzzle's not complete. You're waiting for those final pieces, and then you get to the end, and then the killer, through dialogue or action or whatever, now finally completes that puzzle for you, and you're like, haha, right? Rather than like you have nothing, and then all of a sudden this puzzle's dropped on you, and then all the pieces are starting to like, flow in, and you got to like process that all in like one swoop, rather than like, again, piecing it over. So pacing is very important. I'm all for the twists and turns, but you got to make sure that those twists and turns are done in a proper manner where you don't lose your audience, right? I want this Scream film to be exciting. I want this Scream film to keep us on the edge of our seats. I want a darker Ghostface. I want, bring it on, right? Like the better, the more the merrier, right? The more you can properly get across, the better. But you don't want to lose sight of the overall story, the overall plot. But time will tell. We'll see how this all plays out. And as always, this is a discussion. I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Hey, Phil, what are your thoughts? Do you want there to be all these twists, turns? Do you think the more the merrier? Do you think like, no, keep it a pretty straightforward Scream movie, nothing too crazy, nothing too over the top, just kind of keep things, focused and in perspective? However you feel, either way, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel. What are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.